Texas has its own sense of vastness, a sprawling, almost intimidating openness that is as beautiful as it is eerie. I found myself driving through this very expanse, my 18-wheeler roaring down the desert highway, the glaring sun gradually replaced by a riot of oranges and purples as dusk descended. I was heading towards San Antonio, but my immediate destination was a 24/7 truck stop I found on my map, a place called Molly's Retreat, the only sign of life in this desolate landscape. Molly's was a weathered, solitary establishment that appeared suddenly around a bend. A fluorescent sign buzzed quietly in the encroaching darkness, casting an ethereal glow over the sandy lot. I parked my rig and approached the diner, a sense of unease fluttering in my gut. It was too quiet, the only sounds the distant howl of the wind and the soft crunching of gravel under my boots. The interior was oddly warm, filled with the aroma of burnt coffee and old frying oil. Behind the counter was a woman, presumably Molly, a stout figure with graying hair and a peculiar sparkle in her eyes. She offered a tired smile as she served me a surprisingly decent plate of chili and a cup of coffee. As I ate in silence, a low, raspy whisper reached my ears, something that sounded eerily like my name. I shrugged it off as fatigue playing tricks, yet the whisper grew, transforming into an audible voice. I looked around. The diner was still devoid of any customers, and Molly seemed engrossed in a crossword puzzle. It was then that I realized the voice was coming from a rusty radio near the register, crackling with static, but clearly saying my name, Jackson. Before I could ponder this further, a powerful gust of wind slammed against the diner, rattling the windows and plunging us into darkness. Molly sighed, lighting a couple of candles and muttering about the unpredictability of desert storms. But my mind was reeling, the echo of my name from the radio merging with the cacophony outside. I could not shake the feeling that the desert was aware of me, an unsettling realization that had me on edge. And this was just the beginning of the longest night of my life. Back in the cab of my truck, I tried to shrug off the strange occurrences. I took out my map, tracing the distance to San Antonio, when the whispering began again, this time inside my rig. Jackson. It was soft, like the rustling of dried leaves, and it reverberated within the confines of the cab. The whisper became a chant, echoing in the silent night, my name, over and over again. A quick glance at Molly showed me that the power was back on. The diner was once again bathed in harsh, fluorescent light, but the desert beyond was an abyss, the storm having completely obscured the moon and stars. Before fear could consume me, I noticed movement in the rear-view mirror. A hunched figure was limping towards me from the desert's void. Heart pounding, I strained my eyes to make out the newcomer. The figure was an old man, weather-beaten and ragged, his face obscured by a tattered cowboy hat. He knocked on my window, and despite my growing apprehension, I rolled it down. Need shelter from the storm, son, he croaked, voice as raspy as the desert wind. I nodded, gesturing for him to climb into the passenger seat. As he settled in, I couldn't help but notice a strange medallion around his neck, a twisted piece of metal resembling a desert cactus. The old man didn't speak, his gaze focused on the storm outside. The whispers had stopped, replaced by the howling wind and the old man's ragged breathing. Time seemed to stretch, every second a taut wire of suspense. Finally, he turned to me, eyes as cold as the desert night. You heard it, didn't you, Jackson? He rasped. The call of the desert. The hair at the back of my neck stood up. The whispering of my name, the strange atmosphere, the sudden storm, it all fell into place like pieces of a terrifying puzzle. The old man continued, the desert knows you now, and it wants something. His cryptic words echoed in the cab as the storm raged outside. The desert wasn't just aware of me, it was calling out to me, reaching into my very core. And as the reality of my predicament sank in, I realized that I was trapped in this haunting play of nature, with dawn a lifetime away. Hours passed like minutes in the dim cab, each tick of the clock amplifying my sense of dread. The old man remained silent, his eyes never leaving the storm outside. I was too on edge to speak, my mind grappling with the eerie situation I found myself in. The desert wind seemed to carry whispers, my name carried on the gusts that buffeted the truck. It was maddening. Just when the suspense was reaching unbearable heights, the storm abruptly died down. An uncanny stillness replaced the raging winds. The radio, silent till now, crackled to life, filling the cab with a dreadful static. "Jackson," the radio hissed, my name slicing through the white noise. "Jackson," it repeated, as if the desert itself was speaking through the device. Then, a command, as chilling as it was clear, "Come." The urge to step out was overwhelming. It felt like the very fibers of my being were being tugged at. But the old man's hand on my arm kept me in place. "Do not listen, Jackson. You must resist till sunrise," he warned, his voice a lifeline amidst the storm of fear. As the night wore on, the call from the desert became increasingly insistent, my name echoing around the truck stop. The struggle to stay put was intense, almost physical, yet I held on, the old man's presence a comforting beacon. Finally, as the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the whispers ceased. The desert, once a living entity, returned to its silent, lifeless self. The old man, my unexpected companion, gave me a nod of approval. "You're free now, Jackson. The desert has relinquished its claim." As I pulled out of Molly's retreat, a deep sense of relief washed over me. The old man, who declined a lift to town, stood silhouetted against the rising sun, a solitary figure amidst the vast desert. His final words to me, a chilling reminder of the past night. "Remember, son, out here, solitude is your best companion." That night at the truck stop changed me. The vastness of Texas, once just a scenic backdrop, now held a sense of foreboding for me. The open road, my sanctuary, had shown me a glimpse of its darker side. As I drove away, the rear view mirror framed Molly's retreat, the diner slowly being swallowed by the desert, a solitary outpost on the edge of reality, and a night I would never forget.